Hello, everyone. It's Mike Merker here with People Solving Impossible Puzzles. This is episode 38, and I'm joined by lovely Adeline. Did I get your name correctly there?
Yes, that's correct.
Tell us all about yourself.
Gosh, where do I start? Which self are you? Which stuff are you looking for? Did you even know
I,
about the other things that I do, or just the stuff I talked about in class?
well, let's start. This is sort of a raw here, and we're getting
Okay.
into it.
Yeah.
So we both did the Schulich Venture Academy, and we were both doing the Venture Talent course, which is kind of like HR training and people and culture and diversity and learning how to put together our like the projects we're working on, the businesses we're around,
Hmm.
and a great course by Jenny DeForno. We're not paid to say that, but that's the background there.
It was
Such a
great. Yeah.
great course, and even staying after. I do have five kids, so they were running downstairs and have well, I wouldn't say interrupting, but having fun. And you also stayed on,
Yeah,
and
I did.
and you're an author. We have your book, The Book of the Ark, in which you, in the first several pages, you mention everyone. You mention like 100 people individually, and you praise them for how they've helped you or broadened your horizons, and that alone is interesting. And what else? What pretend for those who've never met you before? How would you? What's your
Okay.
intro? What's your intro?
Well, I'm Adeline, and I love to meet the world right now in two different projects. I guess three, but two major ones. One of which is through perfumery. So I pull upon ancient ingredients, the ones that we've been using for like 10, 15,000 years since the beginning of written history. I have those. I have what was in the courts of King Solomon and King David. I have what the prophets were wearing. I have what the royalty that we all reference back to and admire was using, and what the temples had, like all of it. I have those ingredients because they still exist and they're still cultivated on small farms that have carried the tradition. And so I use that for storytelling, and I use that to connect people with each other and with themselves, because when they discover what I do, like they pretty immediately become very vulnerable because they can see that I care about people, and so they really want to open up, especially when they meet me at one of my exhibits. So I just had an exhibit this weekend at a tech conference. And so this place is full of like founders, operators, VCs, the usual. And then there's me with this like Arabian Nights purple, fascinating transporting tent. They go inside and they sit down on the floor with all these pillows, all this beautiful rug. And then I take them through these scents from all these people in history that everyone at that conference admires because of their shared background. And it's so beautiful to like watch them. Some people cry, right? Like because they really get to finally share something with those people that are the giants of history. Because like we can't wear their clothes or see what they looked like or know what exactly they said. Like it's all gone. But to know what they wore when they woke up on a Sunday morning, or what they smelled when they walked through the market, is really really transporting. So that, I think, smell as a technology really gets to remind us that we're human, because it's so intimately connected with our heart and with our limbic system and the more primal part of us. And then the other thing that I do is I do advisory for founders. So this book is part of it. It's like my textbook that I give my clients. But
Yes.
it's designed to advise people on how to be themselves in a more effective way, because you can be the most fascinating, kind, interesting person, but if you don't have boundaries, if you don't know how to stand on business, then it doesn't matter. And then
Mm.
also, if you are someone who is an outlier or who does not want to follow the traditional path of power, then how do you still hold that level of sovereignty without selling out? And so I love to teach people about that. I've created a technology that has been just kept on the down low as I look for investors, because to scale that I do require investment, but the practice of one-on-one coaching and of small group trainings, I am able to do that without needing scale. And so I integrate the technology that I have into that so that my clients can also be served by this type of thinking without me being present.
Amazing, amazing. And
Thanks.
the book is the Book of the Ark, and I'll put a link in the description as this goes
Mhm.
out on YouTube. And your faith is important to you. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Why is my faith important? I mean,
Like
gosh, it's the same reason it
I
is
wear
for you,
one of
right?
these,
Yeah.
and you also cover your head and
Yeah.
dress differently than others.
Yeah.
But many people into it's the year 2026, and people go, Mike, no one cares about what happened 3,500 years ago. And I'm like, no, a lot of people do care. A
Yeah, you
lot.
care. That's what matters. You care.
Yeah, you're all about the importance of that we can be an independent
Yeah.
thinker, even in a world of constant bombardment of nonsense and less valuable, less meaningful entertainments, and
Yeah.
not necessarily the most wholesome corporations and businesses influencing us. You
Yeah.
were always like this, an independent thinker, encouraging creativity and independent thinking.
Yeah. And independence is not always the good thing or goal. It's more like knowing why you're thinking what you're thinking and understanding the game that you're playing and that there even is a game at all. I think is what's important for people to recognize because everyone's going to ascend to different levels of development. They're available to all of us, and not everyone will go through all of them because it's hard or because they didn't know they could or because they don't want to. And so knowing what is possible, I think is the most important thing to share. So like these corporations that do this and that, like you can just opt, you can literally just opt out. Like for example, the COVID vaccines, like it was said that you couldn't fly. It was said that you could do all of it. It was a mandate, not a law. And people think
That's
that
right.
mandate means law and it doesn't. And so when you learn more about the scaffolding of the world around you, you can play your own game within it, but you can't do that unless you understand with very sobering reality what's going on around you. And so then you realize what you can opt out of. And so, for example, like a lot of people are going infertile right now because of the quality of the food that they're eating and the clothes that they're wearing. And this is not conspiracy, like this is like demonstrably through mainstream science that this is a fact. And so they could just stop eating Pop Tarts and they could just start wearing cotton underwear. But that's hard, I guess, right? Because
It's hard
it's
to change. It's
well,
hard to
not
go
just that, it
against the.
requires you to realize and look in the face of what's happening, and that's scary to do.
It's scary to do. Yes, it's scary, just like being a founder or an
Yeah.
author or someone who's really putting their thoughts out there in the world. It
Mm.
takes courage, and you have to be yourself. You can't fake that. You cannot game a system where of it's harder to when it's a large company or it's a large school or university or college program. There are
Hmm.
ways to kind of game the system or get ahead or try to manipulate circumstances, let's say.
Yeah.
But when it's one's own thoughts, a creator, like a content creator or an author or a founder, it's just you. You have to be solving a problem that you care about.
Yeah.
Like it's not otherwise people see through it.
Yeah.
And why did you write? What inspired you to write your book? You're not a
Okay, so
50
I,
year
I've
old.
I've been real silent
Yeah.
like my whole life. I
Okay.
published a poem in high school, I think, and that was about it. I didn't want to stand on anything because especially in the age of like the internet is forever, right? Anything that any dumb thing you said in MSN in 2002, it's still out there somewhere and someone can access it. So my God, but when you publicly stand on something in this day and age, with and without cancel culture, it's permanent. And so I didn't want to stand on something until I knew that till the day I die that I would stand behind that idea and to the point where I would stand to my death for that idea. Because we don't really know what's going to become in vogue and not in vogue over the next 100 years.
We
Like we
don't
don't know.
know.
And
We
and
don't know.
so to know that you can't plausibly deny any of the things that you've stood on is a really, really serious thing to grapple with that I think people are not understanding. Like if Mike, if in 2009 you very proudly stood on anti gay pride rhetoric, then like in the 2026, like where's you're not going to get a job, right? And so
That's right. That's right. You sacrifice.
and that's going to fall in and out of fashion. All of these things fall in and out of fashion, and the people who were pro pride are going to get in trouble 20 years from now too. It's a cycle. And so to find something to stand on that you're not afraid of being the loser in the next cycle is very difficult and very sobering. And so when you pick something to stand in public on, you have to be confident that you're like literally willing to die on that hill.
Yes, yes. And going deeper into this, this is part of the. This is very much you have to, each person to be a founder, to wake
Mm-hmm.
up in the morning and be like, I will found such and such a company, or I will build such and such a tool, or I will develop such and such a service.
Yeah.
It takes tremendous courage and tremendous more hours and more devotion. It is you have to be
Yeah.
religious. You have to have larger than life beliefs.
Yeah.
It's not enough. You won't survive. You will not survive unless you
And
keep.
religion's not always like Abrahamic faith, right? Like religion can be status, religion can be money, religion can be you're scared your mom won't love you. Like all of these things can
Who told you?
reach your religious fervor, all of them. And so you have to, part of like why I wrote this book is like choose your religion. Know what religion that you've been unintentionally following. Because when you choose the life that you're going to author, then you are accountable for the failures, which is also really lovely because that means you have agency to change them. Because as soon as you realize you can author things, and that again, like you can make systems work for you once you understand them, then you are a king.
Yes, and getting deeper into, for those who are not familiar with the language, when you say quiet power, can you
Mm-hmm.
elaborate on the wisdom behind
Yeah,
the idea of quiet power?
yeah. So I can give some examples. So I am. I'll just be open about it. Like I'm a founder. I'm not wealthy. I'm working on it, but I'm not.
Founder equals
And
poor.
I don't come from a background where I'm gonna have like call uncle and he's gonna rain hell on whoever bothers me. It's not like that. And so how did I, as a woman of like modest means, hold my own in conversations with billionaires and heads of Fortune 500 companies when I've met them and have them want to meet with me to learn more? It's because power, there's two different types of power. There's power and there's force. And there's an author, I believe his name is, let me Google this right now. I think it's Richard Dawkins. Sorry.
Take your time.
Yeah, okay.
Power versus
No, not
force.
Richard Dawkins. Just a second.
Power. Take your time. Take your
This
time.
is a really important, David R. Hawkins. Okay, he's a psychologist. It's like questionably accurate, but the thesis behind it I would say is correct. Where there's power, which is when you just are something and you just hold something and you're undeniably that thing and nothing can shake you, like Prophet Joseph, or he was the beautiful one. Yeah, I think it's Prophet Joseph, Yusuf. Yeah, him. Or and he had nothing, right? Like he was
The
poor, he was
biblical
in a well
character
alone.
Joseph.
Hmm?
You're talking about Joseph in
Yeah.
the um in your religious background. There's
I think he
study
was in
of
the Torah
Joseph.
too, is he not? Isn't he with Jews?
I will also say I
Let me check.
wait, are you talking about David R. Hawkins, who's the director of the Institute for Spiritual Research and the founder of the path of devotional non-duality? Research into yeah. Okay, he passed away like 10 years ago. I'm just remembering this. He wrote the book Let It Go. Letting Go. He has the Letting Go series and the Map of Consciousness. Interesting.
Yeah.
Your
It
Joseph.
appears that Joseph also
Yeah.
was, yeah, Yusuf, I can't pronounce this, Hadzatik, Joseph the Righteous, because of his strict moral compass and resilience. Like that's power. No matter what anything threw at him, anyone threw at him, anything life, like that, he was sovereign, he was going to do what he was going to do. That was that. And force is like when you manipulate or trick or use force upon something to exert your will. And so it's not always violent, but it is. Here, let me
Like
get a
aggression.
definition where he
You're
says it.
talking
So
about the difference between, like, when you say force, you're saying pushing people or trying to push or manage or maneuver people as opposed to the strength of one's own belief.
Yeah, exactly. And here, I will find quotes
Yes.
from this guy on this. Okay, force is operates by survival-driven negative emotions such as shame, guilt, anger, and pride, and requires the constant input of physical or emotional effort to manipulate yourself and the environment and others. But power is from states of willingness, love, joy, and peace, and it operates without friction or pressure, and it influences each other through natural resonance and voluntary cooperation rather than manipulation or threat. And so force is like, I can make you do this because I have the authority, leverage, power. It drains energy and invites backlash or burnout. And then power is you want to do this because it aligns with our shared truth and mutual benefit. It generates energy, fosters trust, and unlocks creativity. And so like this, it doesn't like peace. Okay, maybe you're in business, you don't care about peace. Like it still is actually extremely economically beneficial to operate from this standpoint, because if you create a mutually beneficial transaction, guess who's easy to sell to? Everybody. So by understanding what levers you're pulling to create a mutually beneficial transaction, then you can create alignment with just about anybody to hit your mutual goals. Or even if you have differing goals, to both get closer to those different goals through mutual alignment for a time period.
Mutual alignment, like finding a common ground,
Yeah,
agreeing to disagree,
yeah,
working on problems together.
yeah,
And this has been working for you. This has been
yeah,
working for you in real life. And
yeah,
I know 100 people. They're all like, "Oh, if we only had more money, if only I could get a meeting with someone, if only I could build the software, if only this will work." And there's always a if only
yeah.
this. But you never say that. You never say
I
that.
used to think that, and sometimes I fall into that. Like, do you know what my software would be if only I had a $4 million investment in a data field, and it would be blah blah billions. But like, so so what? What can I do now? What do I have control over? Okay, I can create relationships with people who think at the level of what my software solution is supposed to solve. I can
Yes.
learn about how they got to where they did and see if I even want to do that. Like there's a cost to everything. And like me and you were discussing after class, like there's this whole economy of people just giving things to each other because they see that that other person is building the world they want to see. So if like XYZ exited founder who did their 10 million exit and is building a new thing, why would that person sit down with little old anybody? Well, they
Yeah.
won't, but they will with someone who is building the world that they want to see.
Okay, that's so interesting. I just learned this the other day
Mm.
because I used to reach out to people. Hi, I would love you to look at. Hey, I got this like puzzle. I would love you to look at it. And a
Yeah.
person's like, Mike, this is like your fifth time emailing me. No, I told you I'm busy. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, but I really want to meet with you. He goes, I run a huge company. I have like a
Yeah, I
hundred
can't.
employees, and we're also conflict of interest. Yeah, but then I learned this recently, and I had a mentor help me figure it out. But if you go to a person and be like, I would like to interview you for a podcast. Would you like to be a guest?
Yes.
Then, then
Yeah.
people, oh, you want
You want
to
to
honor
interview me?
me with the
Yeah.
award of being a
Exactly. You pull the lever. What's the lever? Ego, importance, content. And so you've created now a mutually beneficial transaction where they can use clips of their podcast with you on their socials. It makes them look like an authority. It doesn't matter that you have X amount of followers. It doesn't matter. They had a long format interview with an engaged listener that they can pull sound bites from, and it made them feel special. And they could have done that in private with you too,
that.
but having the evidence is the lever that they needed.
That's right. That's my learning of exactly what we're talking about here. Just to
Yeah.
break it down in the most ABC level is that if you go to a person, if you go to a very powerful person and say, "Give me money" or "Help me do tech things" or mentor me," it's very different because a
Yeah.
lot of other people are also going to so and
Yeah.
so and this one and this VC and this, and they could get 1,000 pitch decks every day.
Yeah.
But you're touching, yeah. But if you go to a person and be like, "Let me honor you," then people are like, "Whoa, honor!
Yeah.
I love honor." Because
Yeah,
the
or
more
even
honor
their
you,
books. A lot of
yeah,
these executives have books for the same reason that they do the podcast. It's a vanity thing. So if you actually read the book, they're like, "What? You read my book? You want to talk about it?" and they love that. And that's okay. It's okay to serve people's egos if you're both doing it for a common good, because like there really are insights that that person's going to talk to you about that others could benefit from. And so yeah,
Yes.
good for you, Mike.
And that's actually like an innate human need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, money to grow a company, money to pay for new tech things. Sure, that's a very common and obvious want, and
Yeah.
in some cases a desperate need for a business
Mm-hmm.
to grow or for a project to get off the ground. But when it comes to like genuine conversations, and it's no one's, and then it benefits when it's just a conversation,
Yeah.
then people change. And then they, of course, they give you all their secrets and all their wisdom and which platforms they use and who their investors are. It all comes out gradually.
Yeah.
And you also are tying it back. I remember when I first got your book and was first reading it, despite knowing you through the course, in the acknowledgement section, you list each person. Here it says acknowledgements, women, and you list to this person, to this person, to this person, this for pages, pages. The first page, the second page, the third page,
Yeah.
the
It's
fourth
a lot of
page.
people in there.
And then on page 5 it gets to after the women, there's the men. And yeah, each person, you list each person. This one believes in me and believes in what is good. And this one who made space for me in the most unlikely of circumstances.
Mm.
You are remembering everyone who laid a brick of the foundation. Why
Why did
should
I
we
do
do
that?
that? Should everyone do that?
I don't know if everyone should do it. Like I was careful to protect their identities by not putting their full names, because I know a lot of them, like they're very private people, or they don't even know that they did this for me. Like they don't realize the impact that it had. Or some of these were really adversarial people in my life that I'm still grateful to. So I just think it's important to like acknowledge your sources, so to speak. And because this book is about how to extract meaningful knowledge from unexpected places in large part, it was important to acknowledge the people, so people who read this book can kind of see what that can look like. And then same with starting with Rudyard Kipling's If. Like before I was Muslim, that poem guided my life, and really it still does. It's so succinct of a way to describe what real power is and what real sovereignty of the soul is, and awareness, and how to be a servant leader. Like all of it's in that poem. And
Whoa,
so
whoa,
that
whoa,
plus
whoa.
the
We have
people.
done. Sorry, you
Oh,
have to unpack
sorry.
all these servant leader
Okay.
and before you became. You weren't born religious. You're not coming from. You weren't
No,
born at
I
all.
was
Oh no.
like, you know those people that are like emergency Christians? Like if something bad's happening, you go to church, but the rest of the time you don't. It's like one of those families. So my dad was an atheist. My mom was like emergency Christian. And then I was like, God, show me you're real, because all of these people in this church are hypocrites and I think your religion's fake. And then of course I got no signs. So I left it. I really was just bouncing around studying human behavior for like a good 15 years before I became a Muslim. And I did not want to be a Muslim. Becoming a Muslim was like an accident. So yeah.
That itself is a vast story. And you said servant leadership. What does that mean? What's your definition of how do you
Yeah,
find
let's go to
servant?
Rudyard Kipling for this. Okay. So if you can keep your head when all around you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. Um, if you can, let's see some more. If you
Servant.
can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the calming touch. Like these things are referencing the fact that if you have the capacity to be a steward, you are therefore responsible to become one. And then what does that look like when you have achieved it? So, like many people, God is, or the universe, or whatever anyone believes in, has created us in many different forms and formats and archetypes. And anyone can become independently thinking. Not everyone chooses to, but anyone can. And so, very few end up reaching a point where they are able to become stewards for themselves, let alone others, when that means that they are conscious enough of the games that are going on around them to lead others through those to better ends in themselves. And so if you can see the game that means that you are now accountable to shepherd. And so this poem is written to like
Yes.
show you when you've achieved that and what that looks like. And so he wrote it for his son. And Rudyard Kipling's a very controversial figure due to his involvement in colonialism, but even that is so much more layered and complex than we give it credit for today. Like a lot of the I recognize that the top down didn't always have the best intentions, but a lot of the lower class men going and joining these missions, they were joining it, and religious people joining it, like they were joining it out of a sincere conviction to help these people. And when they encountered their different reality, obviously a lot of people defected, but like there was a genuine sincere love behind those movements. Again, not from all. And so Rudyard Kipling wrote about that. He wrote about like losing the best and the most purest hearts to this sickening bad thing that happened because they went in thinking that it was good and pure and true because of the propaganda that they'd been fed. And
Yeah. No, I'm just getting deeper into this. Okay.
yeah,
Propaganda or things changing over time. Something starts out really pure, really good idea, and then it starts being things change over time. I've had this so many times where someone calls me or something, or I'm working at a job or a school or a company, and
mm-hmm.
then things do not go in a straight line, and not everyone wants to speak up. Not every, some people speak, but privately to their coworkers. Some people
Yeah.
speak, truth to power, and they get their head cut off,
Yeah.
metaphorically. You advocate for seeing through the game. Can you explain that more? What do you mean by the game, the
Sure.
ethos?
So I'm actually writing an article about this right now. So I had a job when I was in, I think it was third or fourth year of university. It was 2010s. And I was in China and I'm like, I need a job. And so I still go walk around till like, how do you always find somebody who can hire you? Five-star hotel lobbies, cafes there, because everyone there owns a company or is a decision maker of some sort. Otherwise, their company wouldn't be putting them there. So
That's right.
it's a pretty easy place to find a job. So I'm walking around and I'm just talking to random people. I'm like, hey, I need an internship. Do you want to hire me? And of course they find this entertaining. And so someone finally was like, yeah, sure, why not? Like this is funny. I'll hire you for the week and then be off with you. And so my job was what's called a white monkey job, which is when you are brought in as a white person to make the other person hiring you look important. Because especially in like the 2010s, now with the internet it's less demystified, but in the 2010s it was a big flex to have like an American, engineer doing a business deal with you or whatever it was. So I was hired to be this very visibly useless secretary because it was a flex for this man to have someone who, was dressed head to toe in Valentino, was very clearly educated, and was way more useful than what I was being used for. And that was evident that I was a good conversational partner and could do more, but that I was just there to hand him cigars and to hold his phone when he was talking
Some
and just
jobs.
stand behind him and do that and to look like part of my job was to look visibly annoyed by this. And so the flex was like I can make this person who other people would be hiring her to like do strategy and stuff to just stand there in a gown and be useless, and she's accepting this, and like that's his flex. And so it was the most bizarre week of my life. And this is also why I don't buy crypto, because like these people were inside crypto traders and they like owned half the big crypto household names, and so like they're all rigged. And anyway, it was bizarre. I lost your question here. There was a reason I
No,
was telling
that's
the
okay.
story.
No. You lived in China. There's so much. We will not finish this all in one
Wait, what
episode.
was your
How long did
question?
you
Can you
live?
remind me?
I guess I was curious more about the so many unanswered new questions have arisen, but I guess I was curious originally. Oh, the original question. Well, we have to. I guess I was curious a bit about
Oh, the games, seeing the
like the
games.
games. Well, not yeah, the
Okay,
games
right.
of
So
life, or where things
yes,
are
so this
not what they
experience,
seem, and we get tricked. And
yeah.
many jobs,
This
a
experience
person,
made the
yeah,
game very visible because
exactly,
then
exactly.
after that, I looked at some of the jobs that I'd had in the past or the ones I had after, and I realized a lot of jobs are monkey jobs. Like you were there not as a white monkey, but as another type of monkey of some sort,
Monkey
and that's why you're
jobs.
there. And there's a shockingly large amount of jobs in this world that are monkey jobs. when you're working in them, you may not realize because you think you're doing something meaningful, but you're not.
What's a monkey?
And
Could you unpacking this? What's a monkey job? Are most jobs monkey jobs?
I wouldn't say most, but I would say a non-insignificant portion of them would be. So, like for example, pre-economic and AI firing period, there would be corporations that would like deliberately have large departments that were did nothing at all for the bottom line and really nothing at all for company morale either, but they were just there because it was a flex to have this like harem of people that did nothing. And
A harem of marketers or middle managers. Yeah, a harem,
literally
a
just to
harem.
do nothing,
Yes.
to do nothing. And there's people like you look on, Reddit and Glassdoor and Fishbowl and all these places where people are like, why am I here? And it's not an uncommon sentiment in some of these big organizations to be like, why do I have a job? What am I like? Why am I here? And that's why, is because it's a way of saying like the market's so good, our company's doing so good that we can hire 4,000 of you as a flex,
It's just a
because it sends a
flex.
message to the other companies. And so they're all
Yeah.
playing these measuring contests with each other. We saw this a lot through DEI. So DEI, as Jennifer taught us, like there is real merit in it, and there are real DEI departments that really do good work, because like not hiring the genius because they're wearing a hijab is a dumb idea for business. But where like some of these DEI things went too far, to the point their own employees were like, oh my God, is like the sheer volume, for example, of like seminars that was very fashionable in the 2010s, or like all of this additional like surveillance almost of like anything that you said being interpreted the wrong way immediately.
Like
Like
the
I was really glad that I was a student during that time, because I could not have tolerated that. I just would have walked out, because it was very uncharitable to all parties involved, but also not effectively persecuting the ones who were actually harmful. And so, but the point of that being is like they had these huge departments full of this doing nothing. And that is part of why there's been such aggressive backlash, especially in America, because of it, because they didn't see the things that were effective that these groups were doing. They only saw the inefficiencies and the waste and the policing. And so, inshallah, now with like greater awareness, DEI is moving into a more functional space. But during that time period, it was absolutely insane. And
and you advocate for, you feel that in the average workplace, the more diversity, the more different people from different backgrounds with different thought processes, an Indian engineer, a
yeah,
Chinese banker, a Jewish
um,
coder, a
okay, so this is where I disagree with the way that it's been done. Is okay, the Chinese banker and the Indian engineer could still very much have the same mindset, values, behavior. So it matters
mm,
less about what someone's cultural background is and more about like what are they bringing to the table from here. And so
unique. They're unique.
we use
Yeah.
socio demographics to try and categorize people
Yes.
like that, but really, as we're getting better at psychographic studying, that it has nothing to do with what they are up here at all.
The external, your skin
Yeah,
color or your representations of your religious beliefs
yeah,
externally have nothing to do at all with the content of your character
yep,
or your and the IQ, all these external measurements,
yeah,
race, culture, these are all just external layers. It actually
mm,
has nothing to do with how smart, how creative a person is, or how hardworking they will be, or
yeah,
if they honor teamwork, or if they are
yeah,
a devoted
exactly.
employee. It's all a big, strange external thing. Interesting. And what's a day in your life like? Your life must be so interesting. I just
Oh,
remember one
thank
time you said you're like running to this class and you have these
you.
meetings and you
let
have this
me let
books
me
and
see if I can find my
articles.
calendar right now. Yeah, I'm gonna give a little.
Uh oh, we're
It's
gonna see a jam
it's
packed
it's
calendar,
insane. Okay,
everyone.
watch this. Okay, so I'm not gonna see. It's just gonna be quick skips. But like
No, no. Oh my.
anything
Okay.
that's not green or gray, I have to do it. Like it's not a negotiable thing. It's a meeting, it's a class, whatever it is. Like I have to be there. So the I don't get much rest, but I do take a day off here and there where I like do nothing, because I like to work in sprints. And so Toronto Tech Week last week, for example, was a sprint. Like I was at a bunch of events, I was shooting content for them, I was, collecting clients, I was exhibiting and things like that. So very, very busy week. But then the last 2 days, I've just did nothing. I cooked some soup and I drank it and I read a book. That's it. That's
I
it.
also had two. I had three exhibitions. Two were like one was hardcore, 7 hours online. One was
Mm-hmm.
at like one was a booth, which was like I had all this stuff there, and it
Nice.
wears you out and sprints. You're an you like sprints.
Yeah.
Work hard, rest hard, work
Yeah.
hard, rest hard, and your calendar is packed. There isn't like everything is jam packed, and you're doing meetings. You have lots of meetings,
Yeah.
presentations.
Well, and so some of my mentors have looked at me and they've been like, "You're doing all this, but where's the money?" And so
Mm.
I believe in using your 20s to just like just swear, like fuck around and find out, right? Like just try and learn, see as much as you can, understand, and then enact all of that later. Or maybe younger. Like if you have the
Yes.
you figured it out by then, sure. But like for the specific goals that I have, I needed to be involved in so many different like disparate
Like what?
injury
Like what?
industries and
This
hmm?
you're just to unpack that.
Yeah.
One day and you're exploring. You're not just like I know people where it's like okay they have their let's say their podcast and that's a piece of their life. They're married
Mhm.
with two kids and that's a piece of their life. They
Yeah.
run like a media company and it's up and down and that's a piece of life. But just those three things.
Hmm.
Yeah. So you're talking here about like what are you exploring? You're experimenting with 100 different things.
Well,
What
there's actually a through line. Like it looks like there might not be, but there is. And so the
interesting.
the goals that I have in terms of recognizing because I have the capacity to steer it, I therefore must do it. I need to purify my character to ensure that I don't become tyrannical, right? I need to gather my Avengers, my team. I need to align and find those projects and those people that want to build the world that I also want to see and connect with them and build trust and to work on okay, like the perfumery brand, right? Like I
Yeah,
just popped that up in like a month and people are like, "Oh my god, like how many years did it take you to
that
make
was a
this brand?"
month.
And it's kind of 15 years, but also like when you have done all the background work, boom, you just spit it out. And so like this book, right? Like I didn't write a book my whole life and then I just wrote this all in a couple of days and there it is, done. And then I went through it after for grammar just to be sure, but it's like you can it was like this in university too. Like I would study the class, I would read the books, I would listen to the professor, whatever, and then I would do absolutely no notes, no homework, and I would just go for a walk. And after a few days of like that, then I would just sit down and I would write one draft and that would be the essay that would get the A. Because you can relegate these things to your subconscious and to the other parts of your brain that are not like the thinking part up here to work through them. And so then when you're ready to activate, you can just and so
Brilliant.
my brand, there's been many iterations since it started. Like at first, November it was meant to have perfume as a funnel for the spa, but now it's just the perfume as a funnel for the perfume, and I love it. So that's worked out, and that's not what I expected.
And it's health. You've been focusing on in the could we call it the is it called the health and wellness space
Like
sort of
kind of
with
because wellness is
historical with
corporatized. It's more. I'm doing something that's a mix of like fine art, history, coaching, brand work because I work with brands on it. Like it's a lot of different things at once. But the throughput is like connecting people back to
their
what it is
roots.
to be themselves without all these influences. Like what would their inner child say? And like yes, we shouldn't go be children, but also that joy and that wonder that we used to have for life, like you can carry that forever, but people forget. And the most functional leaders and healthy leaders and profoundly impactful economically people that I've met have figured this out. Like they really take care of that part of themselves and they really take care of it in others because then every part of your life feels like play. And so like there's a startup right now that I'm building a relationship with and you're like, what do you mean building a relationship with a company? I like them. I went to one of their events and I was like, wow, I love their mission. I love the people that work there. I want to get to know them more. And so I keep going back and getting to know them through their various social events. And they are they all of them they stay late. They're like doing all these extracurriculars after work for and not because they have to. They love it. They love the mission. They think it's a meaningful, important mission, and they're all aligned, and their management and leadership respects and honors them. And it's like they're playing. I captured some content of them. If you look at my LinkedIn,
I'm looking
the
right
Counter
now.
Tech Week
I'm looking
videos,
right
like
now.
it's actually they're like laughing and hugging, and it's not performative at all. Like they really mean that. They're really, really close because they're aligned on the world that they want to see.
You're big on. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So
And they're getting
not.
shit done. Like they're getting a lot done. It's not that they're just all lovey dovey and hippie and then like work is slipping. No, this is like a company that skyrocketed as one of the fastest growing startups in the country and is going to disrupt an entire global industry. Like that's that. And so it's
What's the name? Would you share the? This is. I understand. You're instead of just focusing 100% on your own project, your own
Yeah,
product,
I
your own
contribute to
thing.
people's projects
You
all the
could,
time, whether it's through
yeah,
like meeting
smart.
one on one with certain staff, like in the kind of advisory practice, or if it's connecting. Like, I think you should always be a connector. Like, every person I have any meaningful conversation with, I ask them, what are your goals? Like, what are your big goals? Tell me the ones that you're afraid to even think about. And then I will, when I meet people that I know would align with those, like, I will connect you. And I do all the time because if they're trying to build a good world, then why should you not introduce them? It costs you nothing. I mean,
It
okay, you
costs
don't want to
nothing.
introduce people that you would obviously not want to be associated with due to their lack of character or something. But if someone's a solid person, yeah, I'm going to introduce the two of you. Done.
We should be
And,
making intros to the
oh yeah,
right people.
yeah,
That
because we're
is a
always
free
1 or 2
gift.
degrees away from our dreams.
If someone says, "Do you, Mike? Do you know anyone in this space?" and I
Mm.
know people in that space, there's nothing wrong with introducing the right people in the right way.
Yeah,
It's like a free
the right
gift.
people for sure. Because you have
And
to be careful with introductions because
yes,
you are leveraging the trust that that other party has in you to bring in a new person. And so if you bring in someone that is harmful, then they lose trust in you. There's exceptions to this, but overall it's good to be
it's like
cautious.
a human engagement and trust. And this is so interesting. This is, you are not you are trying to connect with different
Yeah.
projects, people constantly. You
Yeah.
fill your I was going to say your calendar. You have triple booked yourself at times,
Yeah.
and you're constantly networking, always
Yeah.
at events and meeting
Yeah.
people, and you
But
don't
because
draw
I know
lines.
when it's time to activate, when it's time that I do have an ask, that I've already created these relationships with people who I respect and believe in, and they respect and believe in me. And so when I'm like, hey, I'm raising now, or I want to do this project, or I need to be introduced to X person, the work that I've done over the years will speak for itself, and the
Hmm.
relationship that I have with that person will speak for itself. And so I learned this when I was younger because I moved to the city. I'm from a Canadian village. Like my family is super introverted. Like they didn't have friends and stuff. So I never saw any of this. I had to figure it out. And my God, I was bad at it. I'm so lucky again that like the early 2010s are not internet history because oof, embarrassing. But I figured it out.
Interesting.
Huh?
You had to figure all this out yourself.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. And I was
Interesting.
first I was like, okay, let me copy what the rich kids are doing. So I joined Model United Nations and DECA, and I actually cleaned house in DECA weirdly. Like every competition I showed up at, I'd win, which of course would make the keynote speakers be like, what? Like you're an arts major, why are you winning against the people we're mentoring? And so that opened doors for me by being the weird kid. And then I realized
Me
that
too. I'm also
yeah,
weird. Weird is
yeah.
good.
And so
Weird is
when
good.
people aren't bored talking to you, then they will talk to you more and then you will learn more from them. And so that's sometimes the transaction. The transaction is breaking the monotony and then you learn something you needed. So,
And okay, we will have to do this again. And in the last, no, no, this could needs a few episodes if
okay.
you wish. I In the last couple minutes, is there anything that we didn't cover that is the most important thing that you want to
Hmm.
share? Remember, there's a lot of people out there who have less
Yeah.
experience, connections, and wisdom.
Yeah.
So, what would you
Well,
share to someone, the struggling founders and
I'm
entrepreneurs
gonna
I know.
share a platitude, but I'm gonna explain why it's not just a platitude. So people, you always go to a Toronto Tech Week event or a speaker of whatever who bootstrapped and then got invested their way to the top. Okay, and they always say like it's always about the relationships, and I'm like, you went to Harvard, like shut up, right? But sometimes these people don't come from these backgrounds, or even if they did, it's the relationships are really the key, because when you feel energized and aligned with the people around you, again, like the results will come if you are doing good work, if you are being an honest person above reproach, operating from power not force, and you have boundaries to protect yourself with people operating from force, then inevitably you will be okay. And that can be really, like me 5 years ago, I wouldn't have believed that. I'd be like, shut up. Like, no, that's not how that
Me
works. You
too.
gotta grind. You gotta
Me
grind.
too.
But
The
like, yes, you
grind.
gotta grind, but it doesn't feel like a grind when you're doing something that is aligned. And so why would someone who's now, I guess, a working fine artist and consultant feel aligned doing like concrete innovation or working at a real estate startup? Because those things are also building the world I want to see. And so when you're excited about projects, people get excited with you. And maybe they'll be like, oh, you're naive and you're weird, but they feel energized. And so if you're someone like myself or yourself who has not lost that, wow, how does this all work question above their head, then you are an asset by just being there and being engaged. And when you add engagement to competency to trust, which is built through relationships, then you will get invited into rooms that you could have never imagined. And then eventually that can turn into money. And so now I'm turning all of it into money. I'm starting to activate things and it's going well. Alhamdulillah. But
Amazing.
I wouldn't have believed that if I had just seen these Harvard people on the stage saying it's all about that, because they don't explain how that works. And so that's why I made this book, is because it's like, how do you leverage these relationships? How do you do it in a way that's not transactional in a wrong way? Because transactions and relationships are really good. Like every relationship, every conversation, everything, everywhere, all the time is a transaction. Like when you eat broccoli, it's a transaction between your body cells and that broccoli, as opposed to a burger. There's always an exchange happening. And so when you create exchanges that are open on their terms, genuinely mutually beneficial, operate from power instead of force, then you will unlock things that you could only dream of.
Amazing. We will pause here. There will be more from Adeline. Amazing. We will pause here, everyone. Thank
Wait,
you.
I wanna say
Oh,
something about you, Mike, before you pause it. Is this still
sure.
on or is it paused?